I figured, since I've been looking for a few franchises to tackle, I start with the best and worst of the Batman Arkham series. This series is easily my personal favorite. Get the feeling to play as the Batman, get to experience a fun and enjoyable gameplay, and the stories are very dark and serious. But today, we're not taking a look at that. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the bosses in the series. This series has a vast majority of casting characters, showcasing a lot of different and unique fights. But sadly, the franchise isn't that perfect as we had a few forgettable fights that have been bashed on by many people. So today, I decided to go through all four games, Asylum, City, Origins, and Night, and picking out my best favorites and my most despised fights. These fights are, my opinion, what I consider to be the best and worst bosses in the series. You may have your own opinion as well. So, expect that for a few surprises. I'm only going to pick out either one or two bosses, well, mostly two. It depends on how much I like most of the fights. Some of the fights will be disqualified for being just counters, and yeah. So, without further ado, let's get started with the first ever game of the series, Arkham Asylum. To be honest, picking the best boss in Asylum is hard since most of them range from exist to mediocre. Today I decided to pick two of the best bosses in the series, Scarecrow for being one of them. This may not count as a boss fight, but some people count as a boss fight, so I guess it counts. Most of these segments involve you doing stealthing to avoid getting caught in Scarecrow's eyesight, or else he will instant kill you. They're mildly challenging platforming, but nothing too spectacular. And it really shows the ambience and the whole setup of this entire game, considering that Asylum is a very dark game. But I do like all of the atmosphere setups, I do like some of the combat segments, and overall these are fun to go through, so there's that at least. Wish I could say the same about the other bosses. The second best I would have to pick is Killer Croc. I know some of you might not count this as a fight, but I guess it does count. Mainly because it actually is a one-part segment. This one segment you have to traverse on wooden planks while avoiding Croc coming out of the water, throw a batarang to get him electrified so that way he'll leave you alone, but you have to run away from him while he tries to chase you down, while searching for these plant segments to create an antidote. These are mildly challenging parts, but these are actually the only interesting segments in the entirety of this game, considering most of the other bosses are just Titan brutes, to be honest with you. Now we get into one of the weaker fights in the series. I know it seems unfair that I would put a first boss as the worst, but this first boss is a load of nothing. The Prototype Titan starts off pretty simple and is an introduction to expect the other Titan fights, where it just charges at you, you throw a batarang, dodge out of the way, bada bing bada boom, that's basically it. There's no health bar with this boss because it just dies from a heart attack. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. It's a first boss for sure, so I'll cut it a little bit of slack in the meantime. I know a lot of you were expecting this fight to show up on the list. It's obvious, isn't it, considering I've already played through the game and showcased the fight, but we can all agree, Titan Joker sucks. I mean, there's not much I could say that everyone has said about this boss fight before. Considering we had plenty of Titan brutes to fight against, they just happened to make the final boss like another hulking brute. In story context, it doesn't fit Joker at all. His character is supposed to be like playing mind games and tricks on Batman, not needing hulking brute strength, and honestly, this concept could have worked. I mean, how's the fighting gameplay? Pathetic. All Titan Joker does is just swipe his hands in the air, which can easily be avoided by just running away. Good going, buddy. Then after that, he just screws off, sends a bunch of his goons to try to roughen you up, which can easily be dispatched, and after the last goon is unconscious, you basically have to pull Joker off from his podium while he's posing for steroid advertisement, beat the fudge out of him, and then you rinse and repeat 2 more times. It's repetitive, boring, and really easy. Even on hard mode, this fight is a total joke, and not even a funny kind of joke. It's just a lame and pathetic final boss, and it's such a shame that for the first game in the series, this is how they cocked out their finale. Piss easy. Were you expecting someone else to take the best spot? Mr. Freeze is by far one of the best bosses in the entire series. My personal favorite, by the way. This fight is a great test of skill to Batman and everything that you'll learn throughout the game. Especially utilizing all the tools and gadgets that you have gathered throughout the entirety of the playthrough. And I don't understand why some videos say that you can't use the disruptor, even though you can use the disruptor to disable his gun! Apparently they didn't playtest the game enough. Yeah, you utilize all the different utilities that you have because Mr. Freeze is one strong and smart opponent. His attacks can really hurt you if he sees you, and if you pull off that one move, like for example doing a takedown from behind or using the electricity gate, he'll make sure that you don't pull it off again, meaning you have to find something else to utilize. This boss can require multiple tries, but luckily it's challenging but not super frustrating, and still is one of the most amazing bosses in the entirety of this series. Still love this fight for being such a chilling atmosphere. Wait a minute. Well, at least is the sequel managed to one-up the original. The final fight against Clayface is definitely one of the better bosses in the series. For a final boss, it definitely had a unique twist to it that I really did like the twist and how they played it off, even though it was kind of obvious throughout the entirety of the game, but still was a nice twist. As for the fight itself, Clayface has plenty of attacks that require simple dodging maneuvers. Yeah, just simple dodging. You just throw your ice blast at him multiple times to drain his health, while also making him go into the bombs in order to do massive damage. It's a simple process, but still is fun nonetheless, even though it's not the most challenging boss fight in the series. Pretty easy, even on hard mode. Then there's the second phase, where Clayface will send out a bunch of his goons after you to try to roughen you up, and you just slice him up with a sword. Who loves slicing up enemies? I definitely do. And he'll pop up, shoot a projectile at you, you throw an ice blast at him, repeat the process until you win. It's a simple and really good fight, although it does lack the difficulty, but I still praise it for being so much better than Joker on steroids. I'll never let that one go. Rocksteady. Does this even count as a fight? No, not really, but people count as a boss, so guess what? I'm counting it. Anyway, this fight sucks. It's easily one of the worst boss fights in the entire series. Deadshot is so pathetic. All you do in this fight is just traverse from cover to cover, and then you pull off an instant takedown. Ooh, the creativity is upon us. This is undoubtedly the worst boss fight ever to be seen, and it can easily be skipped if you are not doing the side quest, which by the way, doesn't take that long to do. Like, this pathetic, doesn't offer anything, and gives me no satisfaction. Who is in charge of designing this fight? I also love the fact that Arkham City has the absolute best boss in the whole entire series, but also has the absolute worst boss in the entire series. Wrap your head around that one. Thank goodness Arkham Origins gave Deadshot a much better boss fight. To me, Arkham Origins has by far the best selection of bosses, so picking the best ones was easy. I picked the first boss, Killer Croc, yet again since I mentioned him in my first bosses list, best to favorite to hated, so I figured why not mention him again. It's a pretty solid introduction boss that definitely gets the job done. It's a simple brawl fight that you have to counteract him, avoid getting eaten by his giant jaws, throw batarangs to counteract his bombs, dealing with simple goons. It can be a tough fight to go through, but it's still manageable and nothing too bad. But still one of the best boss fights that I definitely have the pleasure of enjoying. I mean, can I really? Yes, I can. Deathstroke is by far one of the best bosses in the series as well. Not we're on par with Mr. Freeze, but still a great enough fight. The fight itself is a simple little brawl, but it actually manages to be more than just that. You're dealing with a fast and aggressive opponent that teaches that showcases the lesson of you dealing with counteraction, one of the most important elements in terms of combat, that you have to deal with many enemy encounters. You have to time yourself just right to avoid each of his attacks, which can hit you really hard, but luckily there is still plenty of time to try to avoid the attacks and manage to strike in a bunch of hits, pulling off many different ways of counteracting him. It's a simple and well done fight that definitely really shines the amazingness of what to expect for Arkham Origins and its great lineup of bosses. And I can definitely see what they were going for here. So it's definitely a well done fight that I still have the pleasure to enjoy. Also, the fun fact about this fight, there's an achievement where you have to literally beat him without taking a single hit of damage. If you can actually do that, you're by far the greatest player in the world. But if you haven't, keep trying, I believe in you. As much as I want to praise Arkham Origins for its great lineup of bosses, the side quest bosses leave a lot to desire. Bird is completely pointless. For a character that's basically Bane's lieutenant, he sure puts up a pathetic fight since his side quest meant nothing. So all that amounts to is a simple enemy encounter where he's just kinda there. Seriously, you have much more trouble dealing with the Venom goons than Bird himself, which by the way didn't even need to exist at all if he's gonna pose this much of a threat. And by that much, I mean literally nothing. Seriously, what exactly was the point? And the music for this fight is terrible, despite the fact it's not playing since I don't want to be bothered to find the track for the fight in the first place. But trust me, look it up for yourself and you'll definitely understand why.
Where is he? I ain't here to talk. I'm here to kick your ass.
This is your last chance.
You're about to be taught a lesson in pain. Name yourself after an animal, and you're gonna get eaten.
Sorry. Oh, what? That's... What is... I'm sorry. One hit? I know I consider Deadshot to be the worst, but... What? Oh, my gosh. Electrocutioner. Like, what happened? One punch. One freaking punch. You know what? I don't know if I can call this the absolute worst. I just find it more funny. He's the second boss in the game. I just find it more funny than, insulting. I like it. It's the best. Easily the greatest. Congratulations. You deserve the award. Greatest boss fight in the series. 10 out of 10. And if you think otherwise, then what exactly is wrong with you? You need to reevaluate your life because this is undeniably the best boss ever. I love it. Just the best. I praise this game. Oh my gosh. I find it more funny than insulting. Unlike two other bosses I know. At least this isn't the final boss. I'll give him that. At least he's not the final boss. You know what? Let's just move on before I hurt my head even more. Like Arkham Asylum, Arkham Knight's bosses are just so picking the best ones was hard. In the end, I decided to pick the second and the third Arkham Knight fights for the best. The second fight involves him being in this excavator drill, where you have to run away from the drill while avoiding it trying to crush you. It's basically a resemblance of TN1 Bane from Arkham Origins, and that's pretty neat. You go through a bunch of obstacles to lure the excavator to these bomb sites to do some damage to it, while also making sure to avoid it because it will instant kill you if it runs into you. It's simply challenging, but nothing too infuriating. Definitely make much good use of the Batmobile. Third fight against the Arkham Knight, plot twist reveal, is actually a fine enough fight. The fight against him involves you trying to do some stealthing, get under the gargoyle so you can try to reason with him, but it really doesn't work out. You also gotta deal with some goons that utilize all the different mechanics. You got medics, standard militia troops that can be invincible to your detective mode, and a few drones and turrets. You repeat this process 3 to 4 times and then you win. It's simple, but it's a pretty effective and well done fight, I'll give it that. But it's certainly much better than most of the bosses this game has to offer, at least. What a lame and awful fight. This is undeniably one of the worst boss fights in the series. The Cloudburst tank is one of the most annoying boss fights I've ever dealt with. You start off with dealing with some Cobra tanks. They're easy to go through. You just wait behind them, wait for your lock-on to go in, and then just shoot it. But they can also be very annoying to deal with if they group up onto you. Then after you deal with that, you got the actual boss fight against the Cloudburst tank, which, by the way, this thing sucks. All this thing does is just turn its cannon rotation around, trying to look out for you, and you destroy one of its weak spots, which takes a while for it to charge up, and then after you do that, you run away from the Cloudburst while it chases after you, shooting lasers that can be annoying to dodge while dealing with this awful camera angle, making this fight a complete hassle and a pain. Some people may like this segment, but I really don't like it because it's so annoying and it drags on for quite a while. Then, after you repeat this process 4 times, the weak spot of the Cloudburst will pop out and you just wear on it until it dies. Yep, that's all there is. Seriously, for a weapon that actually offers a great atmosphere and is the one that caused all the fear gas everywhere, this is undeniably one of the most annoying and irritating fights in the series. I hate this boss so much. Up next on our list is Deathstroke. Wait, he was brought up as the best boss in Origins. How could he be the worst in... Oh, no. Oh, my... No. I know we don't talk about this fight, but for the sake of this video, I have to bring it up. For one thing, Deathstroke comes out of nowhere. Seriously, after dealing with the Arkham Knight, you get greeted with Deathstroke, which, by the way, give me a full explanation on why he's even here. Even after you spend most parts of the game where you have to go through so many watchtowers, dealing with all the militia checkpoints, dealing with all those stupid bomb sites and fending off waves of enemies, and you finally get to fight Deathstroke in a tank brawl, where it starts off with a bunch of Cobra tanks. You dispatch them the same way you did before, and then you get to Deathstroke tank, which, by the way, goes down in 5 seconds. Seriously, this thing barely poses a threat. Its attacks are easy to avoid, and it will die the minute it got introduced. And if you think that's not bad enough, he hops off his tank and... Wow. Wow, what a waste. What a waste of a fight and a character. This is one of the hugest disappointments in the series. We get built up with all of this, and all he goes down is one simple takedown and a pathetic and easy fight. This is undeniably the second worst boss in the series. Like, why did they have to do him this dirty? They gave him an awesome fight in Arkham Origins, but they downgraded him to a load of nothing. Okay, I think we're done here.